What's going on, everybody? It is that time again. The Sooners Illustrated podcast, episode 106 on this Tuesday, August 27th, 2024. 3 days from the opener. It is game week.
Man.
Josh Callaway, James D. Jackson, Tom Green. We have made it. Oklahoma plays a real-life football game in a few days. We are very excited. Brent Venables' press conference was yesterday. We're right in the throes of the first game week of the year. On the program today, we're going to wrap up our position preview series. We have the secondary, cornerbacks, and safeties to wrap that all that up as fall camp is now obviously completely in the books. We're on the first game week. Depth chart dropped on Sunday. We have some thoughts and reaction. We'll get into that, of course, as well. And last show before the first game, so we got to lock them in. Season predictions, what we think Oklahoma's record's going to be, the stars of the season, all that. We're going to get into it as well. So a packed show on a Tuesday. A little programming note, too, off the top here, so I make sure I get it in there. We're going to do it a little bit differently this season. Basically, what we're going to do is we're going to keep the same schedule we had most of the offseason, which is essentially the three of us on Mondays, Tuesday this week because of the shifted schedule, but Mondays normally. Colin and I will do the recruiting show on Thursdays. James will probably hop in there from time to time as well on Thursdays. And then we're going to have a separate game preview show only with the three of us that'll go on Friday morning. So it'll be Thursday morning this week. And so that'll basically be the equivalent of the game wrap-up that typically James and I will do after the game. It'll be the pre-version of it, essentially. So it'll be on the YouTube channel and in the podcast feed. So we're going to have 4 shows, if you want to call them that, each week throughout the season. 2 full-blown shows and the 2 game shows. So that's what's going to kind of look like this year. We're excited to get it going. It feels very good. There's a real game coming up this week. And so the first game preview for Oklahoma Temple will be on Thursday morning. So keep an eye out for that. As for today's program, like I said, position preview series, wrapping it up. We've been going through this, navigating the roster, offense and defense, one position at a time, giving our confidence level on each group. We're in the secondary today. We'll start with the cornerback. So Jay Valai's group, which has kind of sneakily become one of the deepest on the roster, is in a very good place this year. Obviously, Gentry Williams back, Woody Washington back. He's moved around a little bit. Kendall Dolby, Cheetah, but he's also in that room as well. They added Des Malone. Lots of young guys. Makari Vickers certainly in that group as well. Jacoby Johnson came along a lot over the course of both spring and fall camps. What are some thoughts here, generally speaking, about this cornerback room, which, again, it doesn't, I feel like, get a lot of shine, but he's really, when you kind of look at it, in the mix for one of the deeper spots on the team. What are some thoughts about Jay Valai's group here in his third year at Oklahoma?
Yeah, I think kind of like you said, this is sneakily might be the deepest group.
Right.
A very good defense. And I know we kind of alluded to it last week with whether I thought the linebackers might be the deepest room on this defense, top to bottom, but I think that might be cornerback. And I think that was kind of apparent when we saw the season opening depth chart. You have 5 guys listed for 2 starting spots.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when you're returning both of your regular starters from last season, including a guy who is a 6-year senior and another one who we kind of all think has, first round NFL potential if he could stay healthy. So I think that says a lot about just the overall depth in this room. And Brent Venables has spoken about it top to bottom. It's as deep as the position has been since he's been there, and probably longer.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this group has come a long way. I mean, from under the previous regimen and things like that to where they are now. I mean, it's just, as Tom said, it's just a lot of different guys you can throw in there, and we're seeing it on the depth chart. I mean, we talked a lot about Jacoby Johnson, being somebody that's gained got a lot of momentum, a lot of potential this offseason, and he's basically the second or third guy coming up. I mean, it's just, that's how good this room is right now. So it's a pretty good situation for OU to be in. I'm looking at the roster. I mean, just it's incredible. I mean, Kenai Walker just came, he had his low, he got his little exposure last year and was able to build on that, and now he's where he's at, and maybe even starting over Woody Washington at some point in time. It's just something you didn't really think about when Woody Washington announced he was coming back. So, like, it's a really good spot for OU.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy when you look back to a year ago. Heading into the year, they had one cornerback that had started a game at the college level, and that was Woody.
Yeah.
And now you have Woody, Gentry, Kenai, Des Malone all have starting experience. And they're right there on your 2 deep. That's pretty good.
100%. And what was it that, Brent Venables said a couple weeks ago? Kenai Walker most consistent guy throughout fall camp.
Yeah.
He's really come a long way. And yeah, like James said, I mean, it's in an or spot, but nevertheless, he's at the top of that line at a starting job, which I don't know if most people would have thought that, at the end of last season, going into the following year. And then Eli Bowen, another young guy who, Brent Venables has every chance he's gotten, basically brought him up, did so yesterday at his weekly press conference, has just been fantastic as well. So this position is really deep, a lot to like about it. Let's go ahead and rate it 1 to 10. I have no clue where we're at on whose turn it is to start. I should have looked it up. Any ideas? I don't know. So we'll say Tom
I think
start.
Is it me? No, because I did linebackers, so that was the last one. So it's Tom this time.
No,
It'd be me.
Linebackers would be Josh's turn.
All right.
Okay, it's on you, Josh.
That's fine.
Okay, go ahead.
I think that's right because we did 3. We all did it. I remember now. Okay.
Yeah.
And then Tom will have to start for safeties. All right. This is hard. There's a few concerns here, mild concerns, I guess, but the room is really deep. I'm gonna go with just a nice round 9. I like the position a lot. Gentry Williams scares me. He's so good. He's clearly an NFL player, but he just has a hard time staying healthy. That shoulder just betrayed him time and time again last year, and he's gonna play. This week, the opener, but the shoulder was banged up again in fall camp. It just seems like that's going to be something he's always having to deal with. But beyond him, I mean, it's not like, it's all on him. I just think he's probably the most talented guy in the room. So that worries me a little bit, but I love the Des Malone pickup. I think, having Woody back is obviously huge as well. He was very good last season. So I like this room a lot. It's very deep. I'm going to go with the 9. I feel pretty confident in that. If you could guarantee me Gentry Williams is going to play 12 games this year, it'd be higher. But frankly, that seems like asking a lot after the last year plus for him, unfortunately. So we'll see how it goes from there. But I like the group overall. I'll go with the 9.
Yeah, I don't even remember what I gave the linebackers last week.
Why does it feel like so long ago?
It
still feels like a different world ago.
Yeah, it's football season, so everything pre this week feels like a year ago. But I think I gave like a 9.6, maybe 9.7.
No, it was a little bit higher. I think it was like 9.8.
I think so. I left a little bit of room for variance there.
I gave a 10.
Yeah, I had a 10.
I mean, I think this one's right there with it. Like right on par, 9.7. Again, Oklahoma's pass defense was probably the strength of that defense last season. We know the pass rush numbers weren't exactly what they wanted. Linebacker play outside of Danny was a little bit uneven, but they still made strides. But this pass defense was good. I mean, they still gave up some explosive plays, which you want to cut down. But I think that this cornerback room is going to be really solid, and we're going to see that in how it matches up against some of these SEC teams. The fact that Woody Washington, who led the team in snaps last season, is back for a 6th year, and you don't need him to play 850 snaps.
Right.
And you don't even need him to play cornerback all the time. You can move him around. Gentry Williams, again, with the caveat if he can stay healthy, is, I think, going to be one of the better corners in the SEC. Des Malone, the experience he has, he led all San Diego State cornerbacks in snaps last season. So he's played a lot of ball, and he's been really impressive throughout the preseason. Things are starting to slow down for him now that he's got 8 months of studying this defense and getting acclimated to the language and everything. Jacoby Johnson, he's a guy. I mean, I know James knows him pretty well from covering him in high school, but he might be one of the best athletes on this team.
Mm-hmm.
And then Eli Bowen, like you said, Brent Venables at every opportunity, even when he hasn't been asked about him, has brought him up and just heaped praise on him. He's a guy that they do not think was a 3-star prospect. They thought he was one of the better cornerbacks in the country coming out of high school. And again, Kenai Walker was really solid last season. He was their second most utilized cornerback, I believe, behind Woody Washington, even though he only started a few games. But the fact that he's been the most consistent guy out of that whole group, you like his size, you like his physicality, and just top to bottom, you like the size in that position room. Outside of Eli Bowen, who's a little bit smaller by cornerback standards, but plays bigger than he is. Jay Vlad has done a really good job with that room, and I know Brent Venables has been singing their praises throughout the preseason.
That's exactly what I was going to say, Tom. Like the is 4 of the 6 guys that we see on this 2 deep are 6 foot or up. Like And Woody Washington's 5'11", so that's right there. Like this defensive unit, I mean, they got a lot of size on the secondary position, which it offers some comfort because you talked about the experience they have, and then be able to cover taller receivers, which is generally what's out there in the SEC. You just feel more comfortable with them. There's not a lot of jump ball situations where there's no chance for the secondary to make a play on it. That's the biggest thing, and so. I'm close with you because I'm a 9.2 on this cornerback room. This is a really good cornerback room, I think. And so I haven't felt this good about a cornerback room in Oklahoma in quite some time. And so I think this is a really, really a good testament to what Jay Valai has done with this unit. As we've seen over his recruiting journey, he's always trying to go after, guys 5'11" and up, going after those type of defensive backs. And now it's finally getting a chance to pay off here. You see it on the depth chart. And so it should help. It should help out a lot. And so I'm really comfortable with them. 9.2 is where I'm at with this cornerback room.
Right there with you guys. Strong position for sure. The entire secondary is. So segueing from that over to safeties, Brandon Hall's group. This is a position last year that we all had very high. With Billy Bowman, obviously leading the charge. He's back again. Peyton Bowen, who obviously was a hot shot freshman, he's back for year 2. You also have Robert Spears-Jennings back in the mix, as well as kind of your three-headed monster. Then after that, it's young guys on the depth chart: Jaden Hardy, Reggie Powers, Michael Boganowski, freshman. They're very young and spry after those top 3 guys, which Brent Venables talked about a few weeks ago during fall camp. I love the top 3. After that, it's a lot of inexperienced, very talented guys, but obviously inexperienced, all being brand new to college football. Last year was a total opposite. It was a really old room with guys like Reggie Pearson and Key Lawrence in the mix as well. Some thoughts on the safeties here. This is going to be a hard position, I think, to rate because at the top end of it, it's elite with a guy like Billy Bowman and Peyton Bowen coming up. But it is a little thin in terms of overall depth. If a couple of these guys were to go down, you're going to have to throw some young guys into the fire a little bit. Where are we kind of at, with the safeties here for Brandon Hall?
Yeah, I mean, I think if we were projecting them maybe toward the end of the season, when some of these guys have a little bit more experience, we'd feel a little bit better. Sure. And that's not to say we feel bad about this room by any means. Like you said, Billy Bowman is one of the best safeties in the country. Peyton Bowen is a former 5-star who you can kind of throw him in anywhere. And Robert Spears-Jennings is a guy that, because of those two, has kind of flown under the radar. But I know we're all really high on him. I mean, he's their biggest guy at 6'1", 219 pounds at safety.
He looks it too.
He's going to have a big year. They're going to lean on those 3 guys a lot. But I mean, those 3 freshmen, they really like him. Michael Boganowski, like we've heard his name come up a lot this preseason. Yeah, I think RSJ described him as a thumper. He's got the crown in that safety room among guys who can kind of lay the wood. We saw that some in the spring game. I think he hit Bauer Sharp in the spring game on a pretty short route, and it's like, hey man, that's your own teammate that you're hitting right there. But we've heard he's got a penchant for laying the wood like that. And then Jaden Hardy, he was at 2 spots on the 2 deep. The depth chart, not necessarily the 2 deep, but they had him there at Cheetah and they had him at safety. So they like these guys. They have good size. They like that they can move them around. I mean, you feel really good about that top end, and I think by the end of the season, you're going to feel really good about the depth behind those guys, so that you don't have to play them 80 snaps a game.
Mm-hmm. You said Reggie Powers, not Jaden Hardy, right? On that 2 deep. You said
Reggie Powers. My bad.
Yeah, okay, you good? Just make sure.
3 deep, but yeah.
Well, everybody's getting corrected here now. We're we're covering each other. That's good.
For sure, James.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh wait, what'd you give him, Tom?
We didn't get to the grades.
You're right. Yeah. So like we're talking about this group and Michael Boganowski, who we've heard about a lot. I mean, I remember me and Tom sitting next to each other in the press box in the spring game. It was like, man, he hits really, really hard. Like this is ridiculous. So and we've heard that throughout camp, and that's honestly shocking to me that he plays free safety. I thought he was a strong safety because usually those are the guys that come down and stop the run game and stuff like that. Because your free safety guys are really, really good at coverage. But, I mean, just looking at this group, we talked about Billy Bowman being up there and Peyton Bowen being up there. And we were high on Peyton Bowman since last year. So, I mean, like, there's a lot of talent up front, especially those first 2 guys. I mean, as we said. And that's going to sway my rating a lot. I mean, just those 2 guys being there and being healthy, I think it uplifts this group a lot because even if when we're not out there, the other guys can see the way that they need to do things, and it helps those guys as well, even if they don't get the snaps that they need necessarily just yet. So I really like where they're at. I mean, Billy Bowman, who I think could be the top a strong safety in the country, I feel like that could happen for him. I mean, I'm really high on this group too.
100%. I mean, it's, Brandon Hall has been kind of one of those guys we've talked about a lot the last couple of years since he's been here, has done a really good job building up the depth there and recruiting at a high level. Just kind of the way it worked out that it's kind of a lot of young guys, but really talented young guys.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a hard one to rate. And so, Tom, you drew the unenvious spot here of starting it because it is like at the top end, it's phenomenal, but it is, a little thin when you come to after those first three guys. A lot of new faces. So where are you kind of at landing with the safeties?
I think it's going to be a 9.5 for me. It's still really high.
I'm with you.
Just because again, you have one of the best safeties in college football, maybe the best safety by the end of the year. You have a former 5-star guy, and you have a guy that's flying a little bit under the radar. In your kind of core three returning guys. And if Michael Boganowski's the next guy up, I think you feel really good about him. Again, they feel good about Reggie Powers. They like Jaden Hardy. It's just a matter of those guys some game reps because they've not played at this level just yet. But even if you have to lean on those big three for the heavy lifting, that's a good spot to be in.
Sure.
Even though, like we're talking, you're replacing essentially two starters at safety between Key Lawrence and Reggie Pearson being gone. But what you bring back is just maybe better than where you were last year.
Right.
Yeah. I'm with Tom here. Like I said, I think we both see that the cornerbacks are a little bit better in terms of depth and things like that. But I like this safety room as well. So I'm a 9.0. Our numbers are a little bit different, but I'm just a little bit lower on the points. We both see the cornerbacks a little bit better than this group, but Billy Bowman, as I said, he's uplift this group a lot. And Eli, I mean, it's incredible what he's done so fast. And, we thought he was going to get on the field and have an impact. And he did that with the special teams unit and getting in there later on the defensive side. So, yeah, Peyton, excuse me, man, this podcast today, man.
That's some kinks there.
But, yeah, as long as we got each other's back. So, but, yeah, I mean, Peyton doing his thing. So, I mean, it's just a good group overall. And I really like them. So, I'm at a 9.0, really good, solid group for OU.
Yeah, I'm actually higher on the safeties and the corners. Not by much. I had 9 for the corners. I'm gonna go 9.2 for the safeties. I'm just gonna lean into that they're gonna stay healthy, which is if you could guarantee that, I'm sure we'd all be higher. But Billy Bowman is phenomenal. I mean, he's obviously behind Danny or maybe even right with Danny as the best player on the team. Period. Regardless of position. I think Peyton Bowen's going to make a huge jump in year 2. I've loved what we've seen from Robert Spears-Jennings so far. And I just really like the young guys, all of them. It's funny. We talked about it with Colin last week. Michael Boganowski, a lot of teams recruited him as a linebacker. And Oklahoma was one of the few that wanted him as a safety. And here he is, probably going to play and have snaps right away in the SEC at a place like Oklahoma as a safety. And that's a great eval on Oklahoma's part. And then, Reggie Powers, another one that we've only heard good things. I really like Jaden Hardy as well. I mean, I like the room. Even if they have to go to the young guys, I like where they're at. Now, am I saying, in Death Valley, and they have to play all those guys for all that might not go well, but, you're not banking on that. You know what I mean? So I like the room a lot, and it's led by Billy Bowman at the top. So I'm going to 9.2. I still, I feel very comfortable with that safety room. Arguably even more so than last year in hindsight. Obviously, beginning of the year last year, very high in the group, but you kind of look at what they had this year, and it's pretty comparable, at least for me. So, and Billy Bowman's a year better if he can find a way to do that. He led the nation in pick sixes last year. We'll see if he can build on that. All right, so that's our position preview series. Obviously, those are all still on the YouTube channel, and go back and find them. A couple of them, have aged well, not well. I mean, I guess you can decide for yourselves on that, but they're all there on the YouTube channel.
Everything I say ages perfectly. So,
yeah. Okay, sure. Let's shift over to the depth chart. I don't think we'll do this for real long. It's been out for a couple of days, so people have had plenty of time to see it. There's been lots of other instant reaction, things like that. But we'll bring it up, obviously. So the depth chart dropped on Sunday. Brent Venables had the chance to talk about, a lot of those decisions yesterday in his weekly press conference, which is also available on the YouTube channel if you haven't seen that yet. what stuck out? I mean, there's a few very obvious things that jump off the page when you first get a look at it. But for you guys, what was maybe the one or two things immediately that caught your eye and is most noteworthy? And again, it's a depth chart. It's a living organism. It could look completely different the very next week. There are certain factors in there like health that affect this thing as well for some of these guys. So it's not like this is just what it's going to be all year. Quite the opposite. It will not be like this all year. I can guarantee you that practically. But still, it does tell us a little bit about how things have gone the last several weeks through fall camp. So what was maybe the biggest takeaway for you guys, the thing you learned the most when this thing dropped?
I think the two biggest surprises, so to speak, we're seeing Jaden Jackson as a true freshman starting at defensive tackle.
That was a big one, yeah.
And Brennan Thompson earning a starting spot, kind of a co-starter there with Nick Anderson, who is the team's leading returning receiver. I know he's been a little bit banged up in the preseason, but still that says a lot about, Brennan Thompson's development. And we spoke to him yesterday, just talking about how he's been working to become a more complete receiver because, in high school, he was an athlete. He played mostly quarterback. He dabbled in running back and receiver. He played cornerback and safety. And really, this is just like his third year of actually focusing on wide receiver. And he's out to prove he's more than just a go ball 9-route runner, as Brent Venables put it. I mean, this is a guy who last season only ran 16 routes, but still had 7 catches for 200-something yards and a pair of touchdowns, 11 targets, averaged 15 yards per route run, which, the next closest on the team, I think, was like 4 yards, and that was Jaquez Petaway. And he didn't play a whole lot either. So when Brennan Thompson was out there on the field, you knew that he was going to more than likely be just running a straight line and hope that Jackson Arnold or Dylan Gabriel could hit him in stride, because that's what he did. But now he's worked on bulking up a little bit. He's still a smaller guy, but he's fast. He can run every route, and they see him as a guy who's earned that spot, even with Nick Anderson being back in the fold. And then on the Jaden Jackson front, I mean, we've all heard great things about him since he got here in the spring.
Yeah.
And to hear Brent Venables talk about him, just his maturity and the technique that he's come in with, I mean, he is in line to be just the 4th true freshman to start on Oklahoma's defensive line ever, and the first since Tommy Harris in 2001.
Yeah, been a minute.
So that's huge for a freshman.
Yeah.
And, in speaking to him, I mean, he's really impressive too. He's very humble. He said he doesn't view himself as a starter because he hasn't really earned anything yet. He wants to go out there and prove it and show that what he's capable of doing. So I think those are probably the two, biggest, things on the depth chart to me.
Yeah. Yeah. And Tom said those are two of the guys I was going to talk about, but I won't be redundant here. But looking at the quarterbacks, Michael Hawkins getting that second spot, and we for sure know that that's what it is now. It's not an or situation. He's going to be the second guy. I mean, we talked about him throughout the camp. I mean, he's been impressive this entire time, and we know that when OU brought in Casey Thompson, it was bringing in a guy that was, had a lot of experience, that had the skill sets to be the backup and be great for this team if they needed to throw somebody in there. But looks like Michael Hawkins has won that job, and we've seen some clips on him on social media already from the OU official account. I mean, he's been really, really good. I mean, that's so what it is so far. So that's a very notable thing to look at there. You never know what's going to happen, and having a guy like that can be a dual threat like that can continue to run your offense the exact same way that Jackson Arnold's going to run it. It's a good thing to have. It's a good thing to have. And then looking at the kicker battle, I mean, we still aren't necessarily sure. I mean, we thought Venables had kind of said, Keltner's winning that job as of right now. Back,
he kind of did,
and he kind of did because he's on the first. But I mean, it's still an or situation, so there's a chance Zach Smith could still be out there kicking for OU, and he's been the guy. I mean, and Brent Venables said it's always a clean slate each year. It's not something that you don't take into account the ones he missed last year. You just it's a new clean slate. Can he earn the job? With these new guys in here, and so. That was another big thing for me, and I'll let Josh talk about Javante Barnes getting that other spot too. So I'll let you go ahead and handle it from here.
No, the kicking thing is, he said that Tyler Kelton is going to get the field goal job to start at least. Zach Smith's going to do kickoffs.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a weird dynamic. Very strange dynamic there. So Kelton's going to
start.
They
also have two separate spots for field goal kicker and kickoff. kicker on the depth chart. So it's weird. So like I think we'll still see Zach Schmidt some, but I mean Keltner is going to be the first guy on the field, so definitionally he is the starter.
First field goal, it'll be Keltner. I'm with you on the Michael Hawk. I thought Tom, the story he wrote, put it perfectly. They're going with upside and Michael Hawkins over the experience of Casey Thompson, which is a surprise for me, not based on what we heard during fall camp, because everything we'd heard is that he's been great, but more, Casey Thompson, if he's not brought in to be the backup, he still helps the room, I guess, as an older guy. It's a young quarterback room with Arnold just in year 2. I guess, when push comes to shove, if Jackson Arnold did get hurt, would we really see them throw Michael Hawkins in the fire in Auburn or something like that?
Yeah,
that's the backup. But, and also, like, are they going to try and preserve Michael's red shirt? Last year, that was the plan for Arnold last year.
Yeah.
But it didn't end up going that way. Because, so there's some questions there for me, but still very noteworthy that he won the job. Yeah, the other things, a couple other reserve things. I think the defense overall was about what everyone kind of thought, other than Jane Jackson, which was the surprise there. The things that stuck out to me, like James said, Javonte Barnes right there with Gavin Sawchuk, thought that would happen, proved it. Really, on a more negative side, Caleb Hicks being buried on this thing. He's 5th. Not great. I've been a big Caleb Hicks fan. Definitely thought this was a chance for him to make a big jump this year 2 for him. That's not a good starting spot. And again, that's all it is, a starting spot. But being 5th behind, Taylor Tatum, who's didn't even have he didn't even come to the summer, doesn't seem to be a great indicator of where he at least stands right now. Yeah. And then on the more positive end of it, in the wide receiver room, Jacquez Petaway, J.J. Hester both having, clear not even or wide receiver 2 spots in their respective positions. That's pretty noteworthy for me. I think that's a good indicator that those guys are going to be used and will play. So that's pretty noteworthy because we hadn't heard a lot about Jacquez Petaway, kind of been a little bit of a forgotten guy this month. And so to see him on that 2 line behind Deion Burks in the slot, that seems like a great spot for him, serving that same kind of role, just kind of filling in for Burks, let him have a blow every once in a while is, I think, kind of perfect for him. So
to be fair, we haven't heard a whole lot about that slot position in general, just because we all kind of knew that that's Deion Burks' role. A lot more of the focus has been on the outside where guys are a little bit more banged up. But just a couple other quick things that really stood out to me. 17 freshmen appearing on the season opening depth chart.
Wow.
Several of those guys on the 2 deep. The offensive line kind of shook out how we kind of expected it to coming into this last week, with Michael Tarquin at left tackle, Jacob Sexton at left guard, Branson Hickman at center, Febechi Wewu at right guard, and then either Jake Taylor or Spencer Brown at right tackle. I think if Jake Taylor is fully healthy, he's going to get the nod there.
Yeah.
The one thing that was really notable to me from Brent Venables yesterday was when he was talking about the freshmen, he was talking about the offensive line. He said that if Eddie Pierre-Louis had been an early enrollee, he might be on that top spot, maybe separated by an or for that starting job at guard. They think really highly of him. I would not be surprised. We've discussed that we don't think that the offensive line by SEC play is going to be what it is right now heading into week 1. But I would not be surprised if Eddie Pierre-Louis is kind of on that Caden Green track where, gets his toes wet a little bit early in the season, gets some reps in, garbage time or whatever, and then maybe by the end of the season has a more significant role in that unit.
I'm with you.
And I know, Josh, you talked about Jacquez Petaway. We saw it last year when Jackson Arnold came in early in those early games. Those 2 guys just have great timing already, and so that's good to see that he got that second spot because there's comfortability there for Jackson Arnold and him. So that should bode well as well.
Also, Billy Bowman returning kicks, Peyton Bowen returning punts, which I think Tom mentioned earlier. I like it. Some people aren't a fan of having important players back there. I don't mind.
They're still scarred by the DeMarco Murray situation in 2008.
Very, very true and very fair. And Billy Bowman got hurt returning kicks a few years ago. But, I don't mind it, especially in the punt return. You want someone you trust back there. Kick return, you can talk me into somebody else because there's just not that many opportunities and things like that. But at the same time, you could use that same argument to flip the other way. Like, more often than not, it's a fair catch anyway, or it goes in the end zone. It's not really that much of a risk. So it's kind of a double-edged sword there. I generally don't mind it having someone,
Same.
That is a bona fide, playmaker, someone cold who's barely playing coming in and a muff punt or
Tough.
something that can just change the game for you.
Yeah.
So I don't mind it. I kind of like that those two guys have those jobs. And that was pretty noteworthy. And Brent Venables talked about that yesterday as well, kind of saying you can get hurt at any time. Not really worried about the injury thing, which he's been consistent about that since he's been here. So also of note there. So
And one other thing, I think it was a triple or at the will linebacker spot between Kip Lewis, Deshaun McCullough, and was it Lewis Carter?
Yeah.
A little bit of surprise considering Deshaun has not really been able to practice much this month. But I mean we know that Lewis Carter has had a great offseason. We saw what Kip Lewis could do as a starter last season. So again, just goes back to our discussion last week about how good they feel about that linebacker depth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Kobe being that number 2 with an or, but that number 2 behind Danny is notable as well.
It's crazy to see all these guys that could start on a lot of teams. Like it's crazy that you see these guys in the or positions. Yeah. Like you just see the depth that Brent Venables is been trying to build, and you're just seeing it here. I mean, like all of these ors or for a reason. It's not just like we don't know. It's just like it could be him too, because like it depends on the day. Like the matchup that we have. That's kind of what Brent Venables was talking about with the running back position when he was talking about Gavin Sawchuk and Javonte Barnes. It could depend on the skill set that we need at the time for who's going to be out there. So it's incredible what they've done.
Yeah, Deshaun too. We talked about it. Just he kind of thought he was going to get back, and he still hasn't. He missed the all-fall camp. It's kind of one of those frustrating things. I really like him as a player, but since he's been at OU, it's just like he can't quite be 100%. So hopefully they can get him there before too long, and that's why he's buried on the depth chart a little bit in that 3 spot. All right, let's go ahead and shoot over to final season predictions. Obviously, we'll talk to you all before the first game because we're going to have our game preview on Thursday morning. But this is the final real full-blown show before the season starts. So let's lock it in. Before we do the final record and we kind of say our final piece on what we think this team's going to actually be and accomplish, because it's easy. It's a lot easier to say after a game. We'll put us on the spot before they play. Let's run through, I think, rapid fire, just kind of the major statistics as a way to kind of, if you have anyone else you really think is going to have a big year, now's your time to say it. So leading passer is going to be Jackson Arnold, unless you think he's going to lose the job. If you think he's going to lose the job to Michael Hawkins, now is your time.
Nah, I mean, it's Jackson.
I'm with you on that.
All right. Leading rusher.
There's no content.
Leading rusher. Was it all Gavin Sawchuk, or anybody going to go any other direction there?
Sawchuk's my pick.
Sawchuk.
I'm with you too. I love Javonte Barnes, but as long as Gavin Sawchuk's healthy, he's a 100-yard machine. So,
and he's got the home run hitting ability that maybe Javonte doesn't have as much of. Because if Gavin gets past that, second level of defenders, you're not going to catch him.
Remember that UCF touchdown where he didn't know if he should score or not? That was awesome. This one's a lot harder though. Leading receiver. There are several viable candidates. I feel like here. What do we think?
Deion Burks.
You're going Deion Burks. Okay.
Yeah, this is rough content here for us. We're all the same here.
No, I'm not going Deion Burks. I'm going to go Nick Anderson.
Oh, okay, there we go. Okay, now we get some.
Nick and Jackson Arnold. I mean, I just over the top, the big play. I mean, I love Deion Burks too. I think it wouldn't shock me at all if it's Deion Burks. But I'm going to go with Nick Anderson. I think he's ready. I think Nick Anderson, health permitting, is ready to put together a NFL first-round pick level of season. Huge fan of Nick Anderson.
The thing is, a lot of people think that Deion Burks could be a first rounder if he puts together the kind of. I mean, he led Purdue in receiving last season.
Yeah.
Drake Stoops at that same position led Oklahoma in receiving last year after Andrew Anthony went down. Deion Burks is an upgrade over Drake Stoops in terms of just his overall skill set. I think that he's going to be given so many opportunities to just go wild in this offense.
That's my point. He's going to get a lot more catches, I think, because Nick Anderson's like the guy you need at a certain time. He's the guy that can make that big play for you. We've seen it throughout the season. So he's going to be like, it's going to be a lot of Deion Burks, and then Nick Anderson's going to be over the top and things like that. And it's just going to work out for him. But I mean, either way, he's in good shape.
Oh yeah. It's a little bit of my wide receiver bias in that I've always kind of favored the big, tall guys over the speedy guys.
It's heightism.
Yeah. The Julio Jones type, Calvin Johnson, those have always been my favorite. I've always favored those type of guys over the speedier guys. That's a little bit of my bias.
James and I respect short kings in this house.
Yeah, I guess. Apparently. Yeah, leading receiver there. What about leading tackler? I feel like there's a few options here. Danny's the obvious one.
Yeah, Danny could be it.
What do you think?
I mean, he's done it each of the last 2 years. Might as well go for the hat trick.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to go Kip Lewis.
Kip
I think
Lewis,
Kip Lewis is going
okay.
to play a ton. I think they'll try and let Danny have a little more rest than normal. I think Kip Lewis is going to have a huge year. So I'm going to go Kip Lewis.
I'm
I
not mad at
wouldn't be
that one.
surprised if
I'm not
Danny
mad.
led the team in tackles, but Kip led them in tackles for loss this year.
Yeah.
That segues nicely into sacks. There's a few options here as well. Guys on the edge typically are your preferred here, but it could be a linebacker, could be an inside guy too. Sacks, what do we think?
This one's tough. So I did I basically did these predictions like a month ago on the site.
Sure.
So I want to stay consistent and say PJ Adebawore, but I would not be surprised if it was R. Mason Thomas, assuming he stays healthy, or Caden Wooler, because he is the most proven guy in terms of pass rush on this team.
Mm-hmm. Like I said, Ethan Downs. I think. I mean, he's done it last year, so I mean, you got somebody's got to step up first, and that's what I see it right here.
I think I'm going to go R. Mason Thomas. Feel like he's ready to have a big jump this year. I think he'll lead in the sacks. But yeah, I'm with you guys. It could easily be Ethan or Woolard as well.
Yeah, that one's wide open.
It's hard. It is. That defensive edge room is kind of, it's deep, but it's kind of up for grabs for someone to be the guy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll go R. Mason, but I could be talking to some other ones. Interceptions to finish. I mean, Billy Bowman is
Billy
like
Bowman.
how can you pick anyone else?
We didn't get to finish the question. Go ahead.
I refuse to be talking to anyone else for that one. So we'll go with Billy Bowman on that one. All right. So we kind of ran through those.
No pass breakups?
You want to do pass breakup? You can. I don't have a pick for that.
Oh no.
I cannot. I mean,
I'm fine with that. I mean, that's didn't even think of that. So yeah, that's fine.
That's a hard one. You have to get thrown at to get
exactly.
past.
And like Woody Washington doesn't get thrown at a lot. I mean, that's what he's always said. Like
his pass breakup is pretty low.
Yeah, because they don't really target that side when he's over.
It's like how Darrelle Reeves never had interceptions because nobody ever threw at him. So
yeah.
All right. So all that being said, time to lock it in. Season predictions. We've talked about this team for 9 months or whatever. What do we think they're actually going to do? Your final thoughts on the season. Give me a record. You can, tell me if you think they're going to make the playoff or not. Kind of hard. The expanded playoff is hard because we have no precedent to go off of with the expanded playoff. But if you feel like they're definitely going to make it, you can say so. But lock it in. What do they do? How many games do they win? Maybe give a couple other. You think so-and-so has a huge year. Whatever. What you think? Whatever. What are some final thoughts on the season here as we get ready to start this thing?
I think they'll go 9-3. I'm not sure what 3 games they're going to lose yet, but so many of these SEC games could go either way. Just it is a gauntlet week in and week out. And it's like there's some games where on paper they look tougher than others, but maybe you're coming off a easier game and it just makes things a little bit easier for you. Like you didn't have to call for one the week before and you're feeling a little fresher. But I think 9-3. I don't know if that's going to get them into the playoff, but I think it can be good enough to get them into the playoff. There's just, so many unknowns with what that bracket is going to look like with 12 teams. But I think 9-3 is enough to get you in the conversation at least, which first year in the SEC, I think can't ask for much more.
Mm-hmm. I'm with Tom. I'm in 9-3. I mean, that's what I think it is. I think it's Ole Miss and maybe Alabama. I think are the ones that could get them. Not sure on the third one. Maybe that's just like a hiccup game that can happen in college football. I'm 9-3 with this team, so I have a really good upside for them. I mean, I've been hearing a lot lower records from outside people of the school and things like that. Like some things I couldn't even believe, like how low they think. And I think they believe this schedule is hard. They see it, but I think a lot of people don't understand how deep this OU team is as well. And so I think that'll help out a lot. So I think 9-3 is a good record to have here.
Yeah, I forgot to say as part of kind of like you said you wanted so and so is going to have a breakout year or whatever.
Sure.
I don't think there's necessarily a bold prediction. I just think the offensive line is going to be better than a lot of people have kind of thought it would be going into the year. We've heard a lot of, I don't want to say doom and gloom, just a lot of doubt about how well this offensive line can come together. I think they have some good pieces. They need everybody to stay healthy. And at this point, I'm just not doubting what Bill Bedenbaugh can do. Basically, I think it's going to be a good line until he proves otherwise.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, even look at the names like that you see on the 3 deep. You see the starters on there. I mean, it's a pretty good lineup when you see it and see those names, because we talked about it. These guys have the experience. Just got to put it together now. So, I mean, yeah, I agree with that. But I think Deion Burks is the guy that has that breakout or the big season for OU that we want to talk about. I think I've been high on him since he got here, and I think that's the situation for him. I think that's that was a really big selling point for him as well. Like coming here, replacing Drake Stoops, trying to be a better version of that. I think it can happen in this offense.
Yeah, so I think where I'm at, it's hard. I've been going back and forth a lot, on what do I actually think they're going to do? Put it up and say it. I really think they're going to win their home games. I think they're going to win their 7 home games. I know they have Alabama at home, obviously, to end it. I just think, late November, last home game of the year, I think that'll be the best version of Oklahoma that we see this year. Late November at home, crowd will be on fire. The offensive line will have plenty of time to have gelled since then. Jackson Arnold will be comfortable. So I think they're going to win their home games. I give them all their home games. That's 7 wins right there, if I think that, right? And so that leaves the other 5, the 4 road games and the Texas game. I'll lean that they win the Texas game. It's a coin flip. I don't know. So I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. And then 4 road games, I guess I'll say they'll split them. So I'm going to go 10-2. I'm going to be optimistic and give them an extra win from you guys. I could easily see 9-3. I mean, I really Josh Pate, he does kind of a ceiling and floor for each team. And Oklahoma had a huge range, way bigger than most teams. The floor was 5-7. The ceiling was 10-2. I think he ended up saying they go 8-4, 9-3 or something. But and that's just because, like Tom said earlier, there's so many games that could go either way. So if I think they'd win their home games, I think Texas a coin flip, and then I'll say they split their road games. I land at 10-2. I think that would almost certainly be good enough to make the playoff. I think if you made me pick 2 losses, probably Ole Miss and LSU would be my 2 most likely losses for me on the road against good teams, really tough environments. I have no clue what to make of Auburn. That's a tough one to project. Missouri kind of in the same boat, frankly. But I'll go 10-2. I'll say optimistic. I'll say they make the playoff. And they'll be going on the road probably in that first round to who knows where, somewhere freezing probably for us. And that's where I'm at. But
so I've been hearing LSU a lot. Like maybe that can be one of the losses because it's in Death Valley. And I just don't know, because we're not sure how good that defense is going to be for LSU just yet.
It won't be, but
yeah, I mean, and so you're getting into shootout games pretty much, and we've seen that throughout Oklahoma in Lincoln Riley era, having those shootout games. When you run into a really, really good defense, that could change a lot of things. And so I haven't been very convinced on LSU beating OU and being one of those teams just because of that.
You haven't been to Death Valley at night before.
That's true. I mean, that's true. That's true. I mean, I don't know how big the environment can swing the game, in that stadium. So that's just what I'm looking at it from the outside, from as an outsider.
That's true. So it's true. I mean, that's been a lot of the talk about, and Tom, I know way better than us. But a lot of talk about Auburn. I think most people don't really think Auburn's going to be great.
Yeah, but it's in Auburn. Yeah,
but it's in Auburn. And
the saving grace is that it's a day game as opposed to at night, because like Jordan-Hare Stadium at night is just like
gets scarier at night. Tom, is that what you're saying?
It's like Carson Beck, as he told Jackson Arnold, that place is cursed. If you're a visiting team playing a night game there, especially. But we'll see. I mean, they're all going to be tough environments. Like the SEC stadiums are bigger, crowds are more frenzied than the Big 12, and that's just how that's going to be now for Oklahoma moving forward.
Not that they need any extra juice, I guess, but here's Auburn's schedule pre-Oklahoma: Alabama, A&M, Cal, New Mexico, Arkansas, all at home. They probably are going to be 4-0 for that when OU goes in there. They're probably going to be ranked if they're 4-0. Mm-hmm. That's going to be, they're going to be believing, so that adds just a little extra to it. But it's really hard to predict. I agree with you guys when you talk about 9-3 as far as playoff. I have no clue if that's going to be good enough. There's no precedent.
And I want fans to
I think it will be.
Remember this. Like these records, it's not going to be a lot of undefeated teams anymore like that. It's just not. That's not going to be the case anymore. Like 9-3 is a very, very good record.
I mean, what's their win total? 7.5? 7.
Yeah, I mean, that's like undefeated seasons are gonna be like in the NFL. Like you never see that going all the way through. The Miami Dolphins is the last one to do it way back when. I mean, it's just
Don't forget that.
it's different. It's gonna be different now. So remember, like if a team gets upset, it's not like changing the landscape of college football like it used to. And so the regular season may not be as detrimental in terms of win losses. That one loss, that two loss. It's going to be different this year. The expanded playoff, the more teams that are in these conferences, these two big conferences, Big Ten and the SEC, like it changes a lot here. You got to remember that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I've said this before. I think fans need to kind of temper their expectations. Going into a bigger, deeper league, and obviously with more opportunities to get into the playoff because there are 12 teams there. But I think like 8-4 should not be viewed as a necessarily disappointing season. Like I think against that schedule, 8-4 is still
depends on how.
It depends on the 4 losses. Of course.
Yeah.
But I think that you can have a scenario where 8-4 is still a really good season for this team, even though it's 2 fewer wins than a year ago.
Yeah, and it's a very lukewarm take by me here. I'm not suggesting that it's anything bold. I do think the defense is going to be really good.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is going to be an elite defense this season. I think that's going to help them early on in the year. And I think by middle to back end of the year, Arnold, this offense is going to have it rolling pretty good. But the way the schedule kind of lays out, there's a little bit of time to kind of, get some footing underneath them a little bit. So
yeah.
It'll be a fun season. Very excited to get it started. Again, we'll have the game preview. That'll be Thursday morning, so keep an eye for that. We're going to record it tomorrow, and it will go out Thursday morning. I think about probably 9 a.m. or so is when I'm going to set that for. And we'll have what we're going to do there. I think we're going to have probably just like maybe 10, 15 minutes, like some keys, players we're watching, and then we'll pick the game, and that'll be a common thing all season long. So keep an eye out for that. And then obviously on Friday, loads of coverage coming from the opener, obviously throughout the day on the website, and then during the game and afterward, lots of reaction from the team and us on the YouTube channel, on the website, Oklahoma247sports.com. And then we'll be back next Monday to do the full show where we'll recap and break down all of it from the opener as OU gets this thing started on Friday. Pretty wild. Excited. I think that's it for now. We'll see you back on Thursday for the game preview. For Tom Green, James E. Jackson, I'm Josh Callaway. We'll see you guys next time right back here on the Sooners Illustrated podcast.
See you.